Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be showing a demonstration of how we can use test cases for understanding the program's intended behavior when there's different inputs and actions from the user. For this demo, we're going to be focusing on the test sidebar .py file, which will include multiple tests for the actual sidebar functionality. But we're going to specifically look at test insert, test delete, and then test sidebar text width to understand how the actual sidebar reacts when different user actions happen. So to start investigating the actual test cases, first we need to go to the test file. And to do this, a really easy way is to actually go to the File Explorer, and you can open this idle_test folder. Now, this is where all the different tests are held, and you can tell because it's test_autocomplete, test_auto-expand, and eventually we want to find test_sidebar. So this will tell us that we are going to be looking at the tests for the sidebar.py file. All right, so once we have our test sidebar.py file open, I want to actually use this outline view, and I'm going to look specifically at the line numbers test, okay? Because these are the set of tests that we're going to be interested in looking at. And as I expand the line numbers test, I can see these different fields and methods that are within the line numbers test class. Now remember, we were specifically interested in test insert, test delete, and test sidebar text width. All right, so let's go to test insert and see what we can find out. All right. Now, to understand this, we might actually want to look at some other methods within this. So we can look at, set up class, which seems like it's setting up, the text frame, the text object, which is sort of going to mimic the actual text editor. And you can see as we scroll down, we have these different methods that are going to be used during the test, right? We have, for example, get sidebar text contents. And it looks like here we are just selecting all of the sidebar text, probably to compare it against some like hard-coded value that we'll have in some text. Here we have assert sidebar end lines with an input of end lines. And it seems like what we want to do here is check whether the actual sidebar text contents, which was the method we just talked about, matches the expected number of lines in the sidebar, okay? So once we have, sort of a high level understanding of some of the methods that are available here, let's start looking at test insert. And here you can see that first we are just inserting the text foo bar, okay? That's sort of what I'm hypothesizing based on looking at this line 135. And then we're checking if the text equals, so I'm assuming this is the text that is in, the editor that we just added. We're checking if foobar equals foobar backslash n. Okay, so this is pretty interesting because off of first glance, this doesn't seem to actually match, right? We were just adding foobar without the backslash n, but it looks like we're checking if, the text is foobar backslash n. And then we're checking if sidebar is actually equal to one line. We're asserting whether the number of lines is equal to one. And so that makes sense because we only added one line. And then we want to check if the state is disabled. So I'm actually going to do a command click on this. And it looks like what we're doing is getting the state from the configuration of the sidebar text. We're making sure that it equals tk.disabled. Now I'll try clicking on this, and it takes me to this constants.py file. And it looks like disabled is a constant that just stores the string disabled. So let's go back to the test file. And now that we sort of understand what's going on here, let's go back to the test insert. And now we're inserting, okay, backslash n. So that's a new line, similar to us pressing enter. We're inserting a new line and then foo. And then we're checking if the text equals foobar backslash n. And this is, confirmed from the earlier action where we inserted foobar. And then even though we just inserted backslash n foo, again, we're still checking if it equals this new line. So I'm starting to sense that maybe there's always a backslash n at the end of this. We still are a bit unsure, but that's sort of the hypothesis that we have. And then again, we're checking if, there's two lines, which makes sense because we did add one extra line due to the backslash n, okay? So this is sort of the logic that we would follow for understanding these next two cases. You can see here, we're just adding hello backslash n twice. So we should have, a hello backslash n, hello backslash n. And then again, we have one extra backslash n. And then, similar logic here. So that makes sense. It looks like we are inserting through these series of tests, we're inserting new lines and we're checking if the number of lines in the sidebar matches what is expected. But now let's look at test delete. Test delete, it looks like we are inserting foobar, just how we started the test insert series of actions. And then we're just checking if it equals foobar slash n backslash n. Again, this is something that we just saw in the previous test. But then we're deleting, it says here 1.1 comma 1.3. Okay, so I'm assuming this is maybe specifying what range of characters we want to delete. Maybe the one, I'm a little unsure, but it could be something in line 1. And then, but by looking at the next line, looking at line 159, it looks like now we're checking if it equals f bar backslash n. So it looks like by doing this, we were deleting the OO in foobar. And so that to me kind of confirms what we were just hypothesizing, right? That if we do delete of 1.1 to 1.3, seems to be removing the second and third characters. And then we're asserting if the sidebar number of lines equals 1 and making sure that we're still in a disabled state, okay? And then again, here we're inserting foo backslash n twice. So we're gonna add this onto the f bar, right? So we have foo backslash n, but again, we have this extra backslash n that's still confusing to us. We don't really know why that's happening. But here now we should have 3 lines. But then we're doing something interesting here. We're doing a delete of 2.0 to 2.end. Okay, so interesting. It seems like we could do 2.end, and that sort of specifies the end of the second line. But we see this comment here that it doesn't actually delete the final new line. Okay, so that final new line that we've been confused about doesn't actually get deleted when we do, 2.end or something like that. And so by deleting 2.0 to 2.n, it looks like we should be deleting the entire second line. So I'm hypothesizing that we're deleting this foo backslash n, and sure enough, we have f bar foo backslash n backslash n backslash n. Okay. And there should be 3 lines. It looks like we do have 3 lines with the first line and then the 2 new lines causing, us to go from 1 line to 3 lines. Okay, but now let's just look at this last test case, okay? Say we want to delete 1.0 to end, but we see the comment here that text widgets always keep a single new line character at the end. Okay, so amazing. This sort of answers the hypothesis that we've been having. We've been a bit confused about why there's always a backslash n. It looks like even when we delete everything, so everything from the start of the first line to end, we still want to have a new line character. That the fact that we are asserting if the test equals a new line character is telling us that that the expected behavior of the idle editor is that we'll have a new line character at all times, sort of at the end of the series of text. So this is a great example of how looking at the test cases can give us a sort of like in-depth understanding of the expected behavior of the idle editor. And then lastly, let's look at this test sidebar text width. So this test that the line bar text widget is always at the minimum width. And if you look at this actually, it's very similar to our demo with the breakpoints, right? Where first we want to just assert that the sidebar has a single line. And we're actually doing this by running this get width method, which just tells us the actual width of the sidebar with line numbers. And it should be 1. And I think what this is telling us is, the number of characters that are equal to the width of the sidebar. Because even as we insert, foo to the text editor, we still only have, a width of 1. As we add foo plus a new line 8 times, we're going to have a total of 9 lines, but the width should still be 1 because 9 is still 1 digit long. But here's how we can tell what we're testing for and the expected behavior, because when we add another foo plus new line character, we have 10 lines now, and we want to make sure that the width of the sidebar is equal to 2, because now we've gone from a single digit to double digits, all right? Similarly, you can see, again, we make it 11 lines, we go back down to 10, and then when we delete, okay, so we don't really know what this insert -1L line start, insert line start means, but that's okay. We do know that after this action, we would have 9 lines in the editor, and as a result, we want to make sure that the width of the sidebar that holds the line numbers is only equal to 1. And then lastly, a quick confirmation check. When we add 90 caret times a foo and a new line character, we'd have 99 lines. We want to make sure that the width is equal to 2. And then when we add one more line to go from 99 to 100, we want to make sure that the width is 3. And as we just look through some of these comments, again, we can see this reminder that text widgets always keep a single new line character. So when we delete everything, we still want to make sure that there's a single line left and that the width of the sidebar equals 1. So hopefully you got an understanding of how we can use these test cases to understand the expected behavior of idle when the user does different things, such as adding lines or deleting lines. And this can give a very good understanding without even having to run any code of how the program is intended to behave based on these like hard-coded values and sort of simple cases where we're just adding lines like foo, bar, we're just adding some new line characters, but we get a very clear understanding of what's going on behind the scenes.